district calendar is to have the area success plan and division success plan into the district by a specific date. The team agreement is part of that plan. And Ron will be talking later about what this program looks like. The team agreement is a very useful activity. We talked about it yesterday with the division directors, that the district has a team agreement for the entire team of the district. In essence, what they're asking is that each team at the division and the area level should also consider having a team agreement. The variety of activities that are included here are listed here. You indicate who is part of your team. You determine and discuss what kind of values do we hold. Some teams use the same respect, integrity, service, and excellence that are the values of Toastmasters, but you could have specific values of your own. What your operating principles will be. Are we going to be dealing with each other via email? Do we expect to get phone calls? Are we going to be meeting in person? If so, how? And how often? You just spell what those are at the front end so your team knows how you'll function. The meeting protocol includes how you're going to handle your meetings. Are they going to be formal, informal? Do I want to have an agenda? Will there be an expectation in that regard? And how the team will interact. And the best thing is, because we have so many people who are so different, one size fits all doesn't work with everyone. Some people may prefer to get that phone call, others an email or a text works. Some of you may decide to use Slack, others may be finding it a challenge. It really depends on the best way that the team will function. When we talk about motivation, I'm always curious. When I meet someone who has taken on an area director position for the first time, I am always curious what motivated them to take on the position. And there's a selfish reason for that, especially if I'm going to be working with them. If they have taken on the role because they have a deadline of June 30th, 2020, because they want to achieve their Distinguished Toastmaster, then I know that they are motivated to do a really good job. Maybe they, like Fran, have done it, I don't know how many times you've been, okay, this your third? Yeah. So Fran has done this role twice already. Here she is the third time. The woman is a giver. She loves helping. She loves helping her clubs, and this is her way of giving back. So what motivates different people will mean how we deal with them in our teams. And what's fascinating is we don't often have that conversation about what brought someone in. I mean, many of the division directors are so grateful to you, the area directors who have agreed to come in. They're so grateful. And they still have openings, and they're a little nervous because they don't know yet who's going to be on their team. But they don't often spend the time to find out what motivated your team members to take on that position in the first place. That's something that is essential to be able to work with a team. And I'm sure Ron, Kimberly, and Tanya are also having that conversation with each one of you. They want to understand what your motivation is for being part of this district executive committee. The value of being in a team position like an area division director is a very personal one. But what's in it for me is so different. Can someone here, brave enough as an area director, what value do you see that you're going to gain personally for you by the end of this year. Anyone thought about that already? Yes?
Increasing one's skills in organization, leadership, that's one big one. Also, the networking that goes into it, it's invaluable in my mind.
Oh, absolutely. So you already know what he is hoping to get out of this position. And as a division director, you would want to do everything in your power to make sure he gets that value. What about a division director? What value do you hope to gain personally from your position this year? Yes?
Learning how to delegate and build a team.
I love how you shared that, because many of us don't have everything it takes to be a leader. Every organizational skill, every polished way of communicating, we don't all have that. And many of us hope, as Davender has shared, that some of the not so great traits that we have, we can work on them. Toastmasters doesn't ask us to be perfect already. It asks us to just be open to the learning. And now his team members know what he hopes to gain. And if you see that he's not doing as much delegating, you know you'll be helping him by getting him to do that. It's also important to clarify your expectations. And this one is a volunteer organization. This one is one of the biggest challenges. Many of us have high expectations. I love when I was talking with Nadia, she already has a plan for her area to be President's Distinguished. So we know she's got expectations already. It's important for her, when she meets with her area council meetings, to clarify what her expectations are. It doesn't now necessarily mean that she's going to ask all of her club executives to park their lives for a year, forget about their jobs, their families, hobbies, and focus on Toastmasters. She'll be clarifying what her expectations are, and it's important that we do that. Otherwise, it's really hard to motivate people and get them to do what it is you want to do. Recognizing team members is so key, and Naomi, you have spoken so many times about how recognition is important to you. And what that says to me is the area directors that are going to have the pleasure of working with you will be the benefactor of that recognition. That's important for all of us. Some of us are better at recognizing. Some of us may think about it, but we forget to do it. And so when you're working out, if some of your team members are not as motivated as you'd like them to be, look inside and see. We've been asking a lot of them, but we really haven't recognized all of the hard work, all of the efforts. And efforts need to be recognized too. It's not all about, we were distinguished, we were select distinguished, we were presidents distinguished. Did you have a good year? Did members accomplish their goals? That's something you need to recognize as well. And the last one, of course, is leading by example. It's so easy for us to say that we should be doing all these things. If we don't do them ourselves, it's like my friend Denis always says, I can't quite believe what you say because your actions speak louder than what you're saying. And it's so true. It's so true. We can get up and spiel about what it is that we say we should do, but if our actions don't actually show that we believe this,
show me the way.
Yeah, exactly. Show me the way, for sure. Has anyone ever been in a team at work that had some conflicts?
Never happened.
I pick work because work usually, if you're in conflict with someone at work, there's usually resources to go to. There's usually policies or guidelines that help us with conflicts. There might be, if it's with a colleague, you could go to your supervisor. When we're at work and we have conflicts, we tend to know what it is we should do. In Toastmasters, not so much. I don't think it's because we're in a volunteer organization. I think it's because we don't realize that we have people that we can go to, that there are policies and guidelines that exist. Now, when we spoke earlier about clubs and the role of the area director, for example, in conflicts, it might surprise you to know that if there's a conflict within a club, let's say president is not getting along with the VP Ed, or somebody's driving somebody else crazy, that club oftentimes goes to an area director for help. But it might surprise you that the policies and protocols within Toastmasters are very clear, that if there's conflict within a club, they deal directly with world headquarters on it, not the area director. Your role is not to be mediator or work with conflict within the club. Your role is to make sure they know what steps they should take to deal with the conflict. So that's not your role. Yes?
It sounds like from what you're saying that a conflict in this context is a difference where the person recognizing the conflict feels they can't resolve it on their own. Correctly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because there can be
Well,
a conflict, and part of our leadership training is attempting to resolve it on our own.
on our own.
Yeah, with the person with whom we're having a conflict. You know what I mean? The
Yes.
conflict is a difference.
Yes. The challenge, though, is that a lot of times the conflict itself is something that someone at an area or division level is observing somewhere else, and they feel as leaders, I need to get in and solve that conflict. Team conflict resolution is when you are a member of the team and are experiencing conflict within that team that you are a member of. And so what they have suggested here, the points, are how they recommend that you deal with conflict. Are there any particular points up there that you yourself find challenging to do? Yes?
I just need to make sure that I understood this.
Yes.
correctly. So I have one of my jobs in the area.
Yes.
There's a conflict.
Yes.
I can be involved there.
You can be involved in the sense of if they come to you for guidance, you can provide them the policy, the protocol, you can give them the contact they should deal with World Headquarters. Yes. Yes.
What does World Headquarters offer in terms of resolving conflict? What would we expect help from World Headquarters?
If you mean if you're in a club, what they would do is they would outline, have you gone through these steps? Have you talked to the individual? Have you put things in writing? What have you done? And then depending on what the situation was, they would provide advice and guidance on that particular issue, but not the area.
A bit surprising.
I know, many are.
Because
Yep.
I think that we were there to help them, to assist them on that aspect, and now you say it's not a matter except to let them know the procedure.
And if there's one thing that I would strongly suggest, and I don't know if it's going to be in our first meeting, but there are policies and protocols with Toastmasters International that are a wealth of knowledge. have a disciplined one, and handling conflict is essential. Yes?
I can actually speak from experience within the club environment where there was a conflict within the club, and we did have to reach out to Toastmasters International, and they were phenomenal. We gave them the situation, the scenario, they got back to you right away, and they actually provided you, this is the policy, these are the protocols, and, and we were actually able to resolve that conflict, within, a few weeks, 4 weeks, and it's very effective, extremely
And how
effective.
wonderful for you as an area director to having gone through that. So not only would you be a good resource within the division council meeting, if any area director in your division happened to mention, gosh, somebody came to me, I wasn't really sure what to do, you would be able to say, you know what, I lived it. Have them go to world headquarters, they'll be able to help it, deal with it.
And there's no waiting period like some people's bills, Toastmasters is. They respond effectively.
Excellent.
Within 2-3 days, you've got to respond.
Glad, good to hear that. I found that as well. Any particular points here that you find particularly challenging yourself? Yes, Jonathan?
I do recall a situation, and one of the concerns I had was that I thought it was very important that we have a safe environment, and that we're able to provide a safe environment for the members. And that, there was a case we had in a club where I think perhaps the safe environment was threatened. I think that needs to be stated, because if the situation, and I'm not talking about physical violence, but I'm talking about very simple, in my opinion, because we live that in our world. Let's be honest, the things are going on in this world that they don't necessarily have safe environments. But I think it's very important for Toastmasters that we're seeing to have a safe environment for our members, and that we ensure that environment is safe, and that if people can't adhere to certain societal norms, we might have to ask them to leave. Because I think there could be a lot of damage to the Toastmasters brand if things sort of got out of hand and we don't ensure that our environment is safe, and our members can come to meetings and be safe.
We do chuckle a little, and I don't think it's laughing ha-ha. I think it's kind of nervous when we think about fisticuffs and violence within a Toastmasters environment. But, we're a very social organization where people get together and form relationships, and sometimes those relationships go bad. And if something happens, we've seen that in the past where club members do feel threatened by others. And really, as an area or division director, we're not equipped, nor should you, to handle the kinds of conflict that you may see going on within a club, but World Headquarters is ready to help. Absolutely. Yes.
I have a final question at this point. So, talking private, share responsibility, are these the steps I do before going to the headquarters? How does these points fit in going to the headquarters? Which comes first? So, should I talk in private to those who I have conflict with, or with the conflicted people first, then share and agree to resolve things, and after these 5 points or 6 points, I go to the headquarters? Or?
What I'm going to suggest, because I'm looking at the time, I am sure you've got on your agenda for the first deck meeting some educational type. We may just want to pull out that policy and protocol and just go over the steps. I would suggest that's the best way of doing it. Yeah, I love that. Yes.
The word talk, I think, is super important here. I think sometimes when we're in conflict situations, we're tempted to use email so that there is a paper trail. We can be more careful with our language and our words. And really, I think it's that personal connection piece that's so important to resolving conflict or reaching some sort of way to move forward.
Well, we are a communication organization, but it doesn't mean that we're perfect. And talking and trying to deal with it one-on-one is always the best way. And sometimes, depending on what the situation is, people may be a little nervous at being in front of someone and talking. So whatever seems to work on both sides to be able to fully share what their challenges are, where someone is coming from on both sides, and to see if they can come to some kind of an agreement. As sometimes you have to agree to disagree, and then you just want to be able to function professionally. You may never come to resolving the conflict, but you may agree that, we'll be civil. Depends on what it is. Paul?
Okay, so we've talked about clubs and members and problems going to world headquarters. Let's take a step away from that and saying clubs that have issues with the district. Areas, area director, division director conflict, maybe district, and how do we aim to challenge that?
Once again, if this doesn't work, what we'll be talking about at DEC will cover all gamut of whether it's club right through the district and beyond. Yeah.
So if I understand, we try this at first, and after that, this is at the
Yes. Yes.
headquarter level.
World headquarters will always ask, what have you done to date? And so you want to be able to show what you've done.
This is to answer also the question of lady as well.
Yes, exactly, yes, exactly, yes.
We do all that step before, if it is possible. If not, with the headquarter.
So, looking at our time, we have talked about what your roles are. We have talked about the need to have division and area councils, who those members are. We've talked about the benefits of having a team charter and making sure people know how you are functioning in your team. We've talked about how those team charters can work, the principles of motivation and conflict. The one area, though, is trust. And many of us here are just getting to know each other now. It's not that we don't trust each other, we just don't know each other. How can you bridge the gap between being acquaintances to now fully functioning as an area team, as a division team? Any thoughts on that? What works for you? Yes?
Having a meal together, sharing food over.
That's a great idea. Sitting down and having a meal, getting to know each other. Not the first time you're meeting, you're going through all your expectations, just getting to know each other. Yeah. Any other suggestions? Yes?
Showing some vulnerability as leaders, I think, inspires others to share their concerns and challenges.
Yeah, we all, well, I shouldn't say we all, but a good number of people that I've met in Toastmasters really feel that they need to be perfect, that they need to know it all. I'm not a perfectionist, so I have a really hard time understanding the need to be perfect, the need to know everything. I don't think I'm ever going to be at that point where I don't need to contact World Headquarters for an answer. I don't need to bounce off a question with someone here. I just can't imagine that, but that's me. And showing vulnerability and showing that you don't have all the answers, but you know that there are other people out there that you can get answers from. Or even in the conflict, sometimes we're human and we make mistakes and we do things unless we absolutely did it on purpose to hurt that individual, which I don't think I've ever seen that in Toastmasters. Things are going to happen, and that vulnerability, I think, is a really, really good key. It'll be interesting to see as time goes on how the areas and the divisions function. I know that I've seen in the past, I'm a member of one now, and I was an area director. I was one of 4 area directors and our division director, and although that group no longer exists in Toastmasters, we still get together for dinners, still.
Hey, but a very good way to build a team is carpooling.
Yes.
Or destroying a team, or destroying a team.
Yes. Oh, yeah. You know, last time when I was district governor, 2 of the guys that were in the trio, all I need is one of them will call me up and go, Sue, it's been a long time since we've had a road trip, and I know what that means. There's some trip going to Montreal, or there's some trip somewhere else that they want to go together, carpooling and road trips. So great. Those are great to go, for sure. For sure. Any final questions before I wrap up? The relationships that you're making in this room are going to last you a lifetime if you let them. And I am so excited to watch as Ron and his team continues this year to build on what I've already seen here. It's an honor to be part of this team, and I look forward to supporting this group.